already know my throat is gonna fucking hate me afterwards. But yeah, we're doing tier list shit again for all the fucking trolls that exist right now. I've done this last Geister the year before, yeah, last year. Like, that was Geister 2024, when Eliminate came out, was the last time I did this tier list, which was forever ago. In my opinion, on some of the trials have changed. Now, I will go ahead and probably speed through a bunch of the older trials, because there's not much else to talk about, really. But yeah, I'm gonna rate them according to how I feel about them personally. I know this is like very obvious, but I'm mostly a challenge runner. I like stealth in my stealth game. I like when trials are actually challenging, or you can do a lot of good different shit within like custom trials. So that's mostly what I'm rating it. Killer Snitch, probably around here-ish, if I had to guess. Very simple trial, still kind of a menace on higher difficulties though, surprisingly. Like, surprisingly, the basement segment, especially with the Berserker, can be pretty insane on higher difficulties or like in custom settings. The push can also be a menace. The final encounter, like, if you ask someone like Happy Art, they simp so hardcore for the final encounter, and you can 100% see why. It's like one of the only menacing final encounters in the game. Okay, that might be exaggerated, but it's like a very fucking good one, even after all these years, which is probably because there's both K1ll and the Giant at the end, and the guy from Evidence can join up as well. And it's just very menacing across the board. That being said, though, it's a very simple trial too. So it's not like, oh, it's just difficult because the objectives are difficult. No, the objectives are actually very fucking simple, you know? I think A is gonna be good enough for this one, I think. Like, I also enjoy playing this in general. Like, there is not a single time where I would go, oh my god, we have to do Kill Snitch now? No, there's nothing like that either. Like, Kill Snitch is always fun to play too. Cancel the Autopsy. Okay, this is kind of where it kind of starts already. I don't mind playing Cancel Autopsy, but I think we've gotten to the point where I'm just, at this point, this shit is just way too simple. Like, I get that a lot of the older MKs are just very simple, but it doesn't change the fact that I'm not the biggest fan anymore, you know? There's nothing inherently wrong with Cancel the Autopsy. There's nothing inherently wrong, but it's also pretty simple overall, and there's nothing really threatening about this map or exciting about it once you learn the map, especially on higher difficulties. Like, the most difficult thing of this map, I guess, is the final encounter when you're underprepared and you have hardcore variators, K1ll and the Giant are on the exit giving you back shots. That's like the only really threatening part about this, for the most part. Like, even if you do some insane custom trials, whatever, in my opinion, with MKs like these, you cannot make any hard custom trials. That's just my opinion. So yeah, I wouldn't say this is, you know, the worst of the worst barrel. That's reserved for some other candidates. But, you know, still, yeah. Sabotage the Lockdown, I am so fucking bored of this MK. I'm so fucking bored of this MK. The reason I don't put this in F is because I still do not mind playing it, which mostly boils down to the fact that it's a speedrun trial, so I'm just like, okay, let's get this over with. But Sabo is genuinely so boring, unless you get some, like, okay, you can get some insane variator combos, and then maybe around the gen in C, maybe there are some issues here and there. I've had it before, where C wasn't flawless, and I had to fall back a little bit. If there's like special enemy variators like Jäger or if I had to do like some no running permafrost shit, or if I had to restock on my countdown because the enemy stalled me. There is some things that can happen in C, but for the most part, I'm just like, ugh. It's literally the very definition of a speedrun trial, and I'm just not a big fan of it, personally. It's as simple as that. Do I condemn people for liking it and using it as a farming tool? Obviously not. Obviously not. But it doesn't change the fact that I'm just not invested in this. I'm just not invested in this. Like, getting to C is trivial. Getting to C is trivial, especially when you know the map, especially if you have Smash. It's so trivial, and it's just so boring to play. It's so boring to play. So yeah, I think it's gonna stay a D for me personally. Release the Prisoners. I think the concept of this one is pretty good. I think it was better executed in Seize the Narcotics personally. But I think Release the Prisoners. There's Release the Prisoners also has a problem, I guess, that it's been out for a while now. I think that also is a factor. Like, you're just speedrunning as well. You're just grabbing a key and leave. The middle section can be very spicy if you're playing with multiple people and have some nasty variators. I will give it that. Like, you know, have an enraged DPA coil in the middle where you all have to navigate. And because of the lever gates, you kinda corner yourself at times. I will give it that. And the escape isn't also the easiest thing in the world, but it's also just whatever, you know? It's also just whatever. Teach is very fun, actually. It is very RNG hell, which could be a positive or negative for some people. But I like the concept of it. I like that X-Ray is actually pretty decent on this map too, which I like maps that have subtle synergies like that. And I like the map of it as well, that you have the upstairs portion, you have a little bit of like the main floor area, you have a little bit of the basement. Overall enemy distribution is also pretty decent, I think. So yeah, I think Teach is pretty good overall. Not the most amazing thing ever, but for what it is, I think it's a pretty decent one overall. Oh my fucking god. Oh my fucking god. Eliminate the Past is the one fucking MK in this game where I literally roll my eyes when I have to play it. It's literally the one MK that is... Yeah, Eliminate the Fun, thank you, Draco. It's the one MK that I just think I load it in and I just go, oh, I'm just gonna go AFK in a locker again, because that's literally how you play this MK. Going for the boxes is just not worth it. On so many levels, it's just not worth it. If you miss one box, which can easily happen on higher difficulties, because you have like no intel, you need to go all the way around still. And if you decrease the difficulty, it doesn't really do much. Oh, there's more enemies though. Ooh, spooky. How do you play against that? Learn to dodge the enemies. Also, learn the past. Like, the most effective way to play Eliminate the Past, when I get in an escalation, is do secondary, and in the meantime check out what the pathway is. If I can go through the showers through mid directly, or if I have to go through the outer sector, you know. 5 boxes opens B sector better or doesn't matter. I mean, that would be an improvement, but there needs to be a lot more happen. For example, some ideas to make it better. There are a lot of gates on Eliminate that are red, that are highlighted in red, that close once the exit rush segment starts. But if you destroy more boxes, like more gates turn green and they don't go down, for example. That would be another idea. But I think also a big problem with Eliminate 2 is, I think, also that the map is also very easy. Like, to not, go ahead too much, but Deface did this a lot better with the base kit exit rush. Like, the one time I had fun on Eliminate was when I did the difficulty 9 no stamina challenge way back then. Like, that shit was very fun to do for a video. Because, it actually rewarded, pathing and what I mentioned, how I play Eliminate the Fun, right? So, besides that, there's just no point in doing the objective. So most of the times, unless it's Jäger or whatever, I just AFK in a locker in main after I found my path and did my secondary. And that's all you need to do. And you win like 99.9% of the time. It's just not worth it to go for the actual objective that it does. Like, I just want to set this straight. The concept is good. It's just the execution is terrible. The execution is terrible, in my opinion. So yeah, Eliminate, unfortunately. It's probably gonna be the only one in F, by the way. Little spoiler. But like in F, I only put like shit that I actually do not want to play. And unfortunately, Eliminate the Pass is like the only spot that is that way. Anyway, Sister Narcotics, I genuinely do not understand the hate this MK gets. I genuinely do not understand it. I understand the hate way more for stuff like Destroy the Evidence or like some MKs that I enjoy, like Get Out the Vote, Spread the Disease, Stash the Contraband. Like, for these, I love Spread the Disease, right? But I understand why people hate Spread the Disease. I understand that, And I can see the argument. I do not see it for C's. All the police station MKs, almost all of them, are speedrunner heavy. And C's finally is an MK that you don't finish in 2 to 3 minutes, where you actually have to do something, And if anything, if you hate the backtracking in this MK, that only proves that Coil is a weak prime asset. Because this MK would be insane if there was Franco or the Crest in the middle instead, I like the implementation of the lockdown gates. I think it's a very cool gimmick that was introduced very well in this. I think this has also very good custom potential, which I like a lot, with like limited inventory, like the limited inventory countdown thing that we did a while ago with like DPA coil in the middle, so you have to be very careful when you make your approach in the middle. Like, this has a lot of good custom synergy as well, which is a plus point. So yeah, I do not understand. Like, some people immediately said it's this, which I get that people do not like the fact that it's a recycle objective maybe, but did you expect a new objective for fucking police station? Like, be for real with me. Be actually for real with me. And for what it is, it's like fine, in my opinion. For what it is, I think it's a fine MK. That also has some challenging aspects that I can appreciate. And it's not another police station. That was one thing that I was afraid of when it was announced in the roadmap that sees the Narcotics, like another police station MK would, arrive. That was one thing I was afraid of, that it was gonna be another MK, like almost all of these that are speedrunnable, So luckily it didn't turn out that way. I cleanse the Orphans. It's probably still least favorite main trial shirt. It's still probably least favorite main trial. it does still, after all this time, my opinion has not changed. It feels like a main trial disguised as a, like, it feels like an MK disguised as a main trial. I almost said it in reverse, but like, it feels like an MK challenge disguised as a main trial. Not to mention that the prime asset is utilized horribly. It's the only main trial that does not have a final encounter. Which there was a time where I was like, oh yeah, I don't know how often they can do the final encounter shit, but at this point the final encounter in a main trial is so stable, and the fact that it's just non-existent hurts Orphanage more than anything. And your objectives, like the second half of Orphanage is literally kill the Snitch copy. Literally. Which was way worse back then when only 3 main trials existed. That, you know, the third main trial, Orphanage, would have the generator and the key from Snitch just copy-pasted. And yeah, other than that, like, the radios are very speedrunnable, which, you know, isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it's the only segment Gooseberry's in, so 80 to 90% of the times, unless you have specific variators, she isn't really a threat at all. Movie segment can be a bit scary, but it's still very simple overall. And like the last part as well. Like, I'm not saying, oh my god, this is like the most free shit ever. When we did the invasion thing and Chapel Ground popped off, like, that was so surprising to me, but it can happen. But at the end of the day, often it is just, yeah, it just is there. Do I mind playing it? Obviously no. Like, Orphanage is still fun to play at the end of the day, like fun to get through, but I just don't find it engaging enough where I can put this higher at the end of the day. Reunite the Children is the heavy object main trial. Here's the thing, chat. I would normally be like, oh yeah, maybe around here, maybe around here. I don't really mind it, but like, it's also not really engaging. It's fine to play. But I'm not going to lie, chat. I'm not going to lie. The fact that they removed the final encounter kind of ruins this MK for me. Which might be, I might put too much drama and emphasis on this. But the fact that you had to regroup and you were locked in and Gooseberry would approach. But not only that, on higher difficulties, the grunt would also face you every single time unless you stealthed around him. That was something. That was something that you know, was there from the very beginning. It created tension. It was, you know, an interesting gameplay aspect. Was it hard? No, necessarily no, unless you had like insane variators. But it was something, right? It was something to spice up the end game. And the fact that you can just press the button now, run the fuck out, and both of the enemies spawning, like Gooseberry and the Grunt, still spawn, but they spawn so fucking delayed that it doesn't matter. You can just rush the shuttle and be fine. Like 100% of the time. It's so bad, honestly. It's so bad. Like, this MK, you're gonna realize this is the one MK, or like main trial in general, where DPA, if you put that on, it physically can do nothing. Like, even in Punish the Miscreants and Cancel the Autopsy, DPA can still do something every once in a while, even though they only spawn at the end, right? Feed the Children, it literally does not do anything. Feed the Children, it literally does not do anything since the invasion update. And I feel it hurts it so much. Again, it shouldn't take away from the fact that whenever I do Feed the Children, okay, cool, you know, whatever. I like doing like my bleach here, this side, that side, pathing, whatever. It's kind of cool, avoiding Night Hunter, avoiding the whole pool gangbang, whatever, you know, kind of fun. But I feel my perception of this just really went down when they changed it. Which, up until this point, I still do not understand why they did that. Because, for example, in Spread the Disease, you also need to, like, Spread the Disease is literally the exact same. You do heavy objects, carry them to one spot to fill them in, and you have to regroup at a button. It's literally the exact same, but spread you don't, like, you still need to regroup, whereas in Feed the Children they just removed it. I have no idea why. Like, it doesn't make sense to me. Foster the Orphans. I think Foster is still very fun to play overall. I like the, like, it is a short speedrun-ish trial, but like on higher difficulties, it is a decent enough enemy density to a point where it can be pretty scary at times. Especially the segment around, not pool, but like cafeteria, the giant, the screamer, gooseberry, berserker. That shit is lethal. That shit is lethal on like main difficulty. And Foster, similar to Open the Gates, is one of these MKs where it feels like you're walking on eggshells on higher difficulties, especially if you then put in shit like bleeding, like, what else, like enraged, maybe a DPA in there, so smallest map in the game. Yeah, and it also feels like very claustrophobic too, so, you know, it does help it does help its cause over there. So yeah, I think it deserves to be an A. The question is, do I put it above Snitch or no? I think I might. Gather the Children of God. I really hated this trial. Back in the day because it was a copy-paste of Punish the Miscreants. I'm starting to understand people who say that it's better designed than Punish. I still find it a bit tedious, especially during the end part, especially when the giant doesn't cooperate. But it's gotten to the point where I don't mind it as much. Like, is it amazing? No. It's not amazing to me personally, chat. It's not amazing, okay? But it's growing a bit, okay? Maybe around here-ish, maybe. Like, I do acknowledge that the map design, unlike Punish, is a lot better. That you have to go like left, middle, right. I think that is very better. Reunite. Reunite is the very definition of I do not mind playing it. I do not mind playing it. But this MK is also just a nothing burger. This is just such a nothing burger. The one cool new thing is, I guess, the kitchen control thing. But then what do? You do some panels, you do a generator, you do new keys. You do a fucking diet cleanse the orphans. You do a diet cleanse the orphans. On fucking Reunite the Family. Can it be threatening? Yes. Do I enjoy playing it? To a degree, yes. But I'm not the biggest fan of the fact that there is just nothing. Like, Orphanage is already an environment where it kind of lacks a bit of uniqueness in objective-wise. And Reunite the Family is just a spitting insult to that, low-key. I mean, it does have a final encounter, yeah, and it can be threatening at times too. Like, similar to something like Foster, I guess. But, yeah. I guess low B. For now. Maybe it's gonna go down. I don't know yet. Okay, Grind the Bad Apples is definitely a very good main trial because you can do a lot. Like, this main trial has a lot of skill expression, which is very much appreciated. It's not necessarily a hard trial once you get good at it, but there is a lot of skill expression within it, Whether it be, it sounds funny, but like whether it be aiming at like distances. Let's say there's like a bunch of enemies stacked up and you need to do far shots to like hit games, for example. There's something there. Obviously knowing where the games are immediately. Obviously the biggest content of this pipe skips. Like Grindy Bad Apples has a lot of different things that are very worth talking about, you know, skill expression, if that makes sense. Also the enemy distribution is pretty good. I find it so funny that there used to be a time where one of the hardest parts of the game was the boat push, first part. Nowadays it's not that big of a deal anymore, but it can still be a bit scary. The one part where Bad Apples kind of falls apart is the final encounter. Like, the final encounter is so fucking easy. Like, it's very easy to a very sad degree. Like, you just lure Gooseberry away from the grinder within, like, in that one side room and just finish the push and get the fuck out. Like, that's one thing that I do not really like about the main trial, that final encounter, unless you have some insane variators, it's just not really there, you know? It's just not really there. That being said, though, overall, just very solid main trial in itself. The objectives are fun to do. Again, pipe skips increases the skill ceiling of this trial tenfold. The enemy distribution, especially the usage of the Berserker at the start, is very good. So yeah. I don't know if I wanna... I think it's gonna be below Snitch, but still gonna stay like in the A tier. Probably mid A tier. Probably. I just think Snitch is carried by the fact of the final encounter and like every segment having the potential to be very difficult with like insane customs. So I think Grind Bad Apples is gonna stay here. Punish the Miscreants. Yeah, this is... I've grown to the point where I think Gather is better. Like, there used to be a time chat where I was literally like, oh my god, Gather, I hate this because it feels tedious, and it's just a copy-paste of Punish Miscreants. Now that both of these have been out for a long time, I can appreciate Gather a lot more with its map design. Punish the Miscreants, the straight map design, especially for solo play, just feels way more tedious than it needs to be, personally. It just... like the straight shot where you need to go all the way back in order to like drag them one by one, pretty much. I'm not the biggest fan of that map design. Also, I've not really mentioned it with Gather, but also the child escort thing is not my favorite like mechanic in itself, so I'm just like, whatever with it, you know. I still prefer playing this over Sabo because Sabo just bores me to death, but I'm not the biggest fan of Punish the Miscreants, I won't lie. Open the Gates is definitely similar. It's definitely above Foster, because Open the Gates has this beautiful thing where it's incredibly claustrophobic. And the objective is very simple, but you need to go from point A to point B, and Gooseberry is literally designed to patrol very tightly around everything. And this might be biased from the Program X back then with DPA, but I like that, you know, on higher difficulties, this can get incredibly spicy with, you know, even already the first segment, like Night Hunter upstairs with Gooseberry, and then you have a reinforcement enemy, like let's say Pitcher, can be spicy. Also around the diner, same thing with a Night Hunter. Or the infamous Night Hunter AI thing, like the Night Hunter AI thing, where... And that can commonly happen when Night Hunter hears you in Sector 4, and he goes into Sector 4 and stays there, holy fuck. Then Sector 4 is gonna be like your worst nightmare with the Giant, with Night Hunter being semi-scripted to be in there, and then the Goose there, and then you have like a reinforcement enemy. Holy fuck. Like, that's holy claustrophobia. Like, this is a very good example of, I like this a lot because the objective is very simple, and in concept this trial is simple, but on higher difficulties it's stacked up so well with its claustrophobic feeling, and you need to navigate it so well that, I just get a lot of enjoyment out of this. Drill. Drill is the very definition for more world. It's a very short speedrun MK, but I also just find it fun to play randomly. Like, there's nothing really wrong with it, necessarily. It's the kind of sad potential is, I would have loved if Duel had more base kit shenanigans upstairs, because they could have done a very interesting final encounter upstairs. But like, most of the times, the upstairs part is not utilized well. You just go to the left and go downstairs, and most of the times, no one's gonna stop you for it. And a lot of the times, if you have certain variators on the map, like the gate type variators or unreliable doors, you don't feel that until you get upstairs. So the fact that, you don't really engage with upstairs is kind of a minus point for me. Like, they could have done so much better up there, but besides that, not much else to say. It's fun to play. The light side is very scary at times, so normally I do dark side first. This is also one where you are forced to split up, where we have one with Fumigate later, which I think is still a concept that I hope gets explored more in future MKs, or even in a main trial. Deface the Futtermans is the very definition of a rage bait MK. It's the very definition of a rage bait. It also does not help that it reuses the exact same map from like Punish and Open the Gates with the exact same mechanic like Duel of Futterman. They just thought, oh yeah, how do we do this now? Because we can't do the exact same thing like Duel. What's the twist? Make the targets as obnoxious as possible. This thing is such a rage bait, which is funny for content, but it is very annoying. However, there's two things that the MK does pretty well. First is obviously the exit rush thing. I like the concept of the exit rush potion, where you need to do an objective while the shuttle is already there. I think that is implemented very well in this. Like, I remember when this came out and people thought it was like OP or whatever, but no, it's like implemented very well. And also the fact that the diner technically is completely optional, I think that's also pretty decent, like as a decent concept, whatever. Like, you can technically go ahead and do like no diner percent speedruns, for example. You don't need to do it, and it's just something to help you out to find a chord. It's obviously not that complex, but the fact that it's there, I wish more main trials and MKs did that too. So yeah. What if the targets rage bait you during the exit rush part? They can't. On the exit rush target segment, they're static. It's only in the previous segments where they rage bait you. But yeah, in the barn itself, in the exit rush part, they're like static movement, which you can predict. Yeah, if they rage baited you in the end, then this would be F tier, but yeah, the question is, where do I rank this? Maybe around here. I don't know. Like, I won't lie, like, I'm getting annoyed at this trial a lot, but I think the base kit exit rush carries it a lot for me. Like, that is such a well implemented exit rush mechanic, which I haven't even talked about, that Sister Narcotics also has an exit rush mechanic, which makes no sense. I really hope more MKs in the future do more base kit exit rush mechanics, and this one is implemented very well. The rest of the MK, however, it does have a little bit of the DNA of Open the Gates with the claustrophobic feeling. I will give it that too, but yeah, I don't know. I'm just not the biggest fan of the rage bait targets, I guess, so yeah. Redeem Your Freedom is the kind of MK I never really thought about how I feel about it. Like, if I had to tell you right off the gate, it would be around the middle. Without much thought. Because this is also like the very definition of an MK that I do not mind playing at all. And I think it's like a decent time. It doesn't do anything revolutionary. However, it is kind of the same. Actually, it's kind of the same at times. Like Open the Gates and Foster with its claustrophobic nature. It's a very simple objective. But there are also so many enemies. Actually, yeah, this does convince me to actually put it up a little bit. I will say, however, that this is, you know, still not among A for me personally, but that at that point, that's just personal preference. Yeah, Upstairs is a literal Vietnam jungle. And that's probably why it's higher than a lot of these other ones. However, the environment, I guess, is not necessarily my favorite. The 4-ticket rage bait is insane, yeah. The 4-ticket rage bait is insane. And makes this feel a lot more sluggish than it needs to be as well, but yeah. Overall, I don't mind this. I think it can be very fun to play out. It's decent. Objective is very simple, but like, it's very Vietnam jungly, especially if you get like blocked paths. Holy fuck. Okay, chat. Okay, chat, it's finally... We're talking about Beguile the Children, which is a very, very, very special MK in this list. Because it's the first MK that had a map comeback, where, oh, they made an entirely new map for an old one, if that makes sense. Beguile Environment S tier, Objective D tier. Not quite, but this is kind of the discussion I want to have. Because the environment is beautiful. Like, if you're going after, you know, oh my god, design of the environment, whatever, then this would easily be S tier. Easily. Especially since the Illusion Hall has so many cool rooms. It has like the rabbit hole, it has like this eye room, it has this guy in the hourglass, it has so many attractions. It has that red room. Like, there went so much different design into it. But yeah, the objective itself, I mean, here's the thing. It's kind of cool that you have a little bit of a learning process, knowing that all the spawns of the projectors, and then knowing there's one projector per floor. But your guessing itself, I mean, here's the thing. If you didn't need to guess, like, if hypothetically you didn't need to guess, then this would be a 3 to 4 minute speedrun MK. Probably. So I'm kind of glad that they made it so you kind of have to guess. Or like, you know, you have to test them out and then use your logical brain. Oh yeah, if this is 2, I have 3. This is 2. Okay, 2 needs downstairs, and then you know, you get like 3 in you know, the main floor. You also know that 4 is upstairs. Like, a little bit of the mental you go through there. But yeah, I won't lie, the objective is still a bit lackluster though. Like, it is very mid, yeah. It is very mid. But how the fuck do I rank this? Because I remember, for example, when Eliminate the Past came out, I also ranked it relatively high. Because, like, the exit rush thing was, like, the cool thing back then. So maybe Beguile will be a case of, at some point, we will get more maps like these that are with new cool environments. And then we will look back at Beguile and see its cracks and just think, oh yeah, the objective drags it down so much. The objective just drags it down so much. I would still kind of put it around here, because here's the thing, I don't personally mind the guesswork you have to do too much either. It's not my favorite thing, but yeah, maybe around here. Alright, Vindicate the Guilty has a long fucking history. This used to be my comfort trial. I mean, still is to a point. Whenever there's Courthouse coming up, I can do very well, because there used to be a time where I hardcore A+ flawless speedrun this shit. Like, I loved Courthouse. Problem: there's been a lot of nerfs to Courthouse. I haven't really mentioned it with K1ll the Snitch, because in K1ll the Snitch, I think it's a little bit less of an issue. But like, Courthouse got so many nerfs. Courthouse got so many nerfs over the time. Some of them got reverted over time. Like, some of them got reverted, which, you know, good. But like, the head change, like, the fact that in solo you only have to do one head instead of two means you don't really have to engage with both K1ll and the no-wig zone. You just don't really. You just go in real quick, do the head, and get the fuck out. Back when there was two heads, most of the times you actually had to be in there and actually engage to, you know, the, with the mechanics itself. And the no-wig zone meant more. Nowadays, it really doesn't in this segment. Also, the fact that you're no longer locked in the final encounter. I know that was forever ago, and people might not even remember that. But back when Courthouse came out, during the final encounter with the judge, you were actually locked in the courtroom, which was such a cool concept. But imagine you have an enraged DPA K1ll and a pitcher in the final encounter, and it was still like that you're locked in the courtroom and you have to use the environments like the table room with the jury, the witness tutorial room, the back, and the room in the back. You still had to use that. Imagine, but they got rid of that for some reason. Now you can just freely go away, you can lure any reinforcements away, you can lure K1ll away. And a lot of these nerfs just are very bitter to me overall. It's just very bitter overall. The skateboard mechanics really grew on me, but the problem with it... Yeah, that's also true. I mean, that is for some reason in main trials the same thing. Like, in Pleasure it's the same issue. I don't know why they keep doing that. But yeah, Witnesses got better, because it used to be that Night Hunter would spawn at one bulb remaining and the Giant was there from the start. They reversed that, and now it makes a lot more sense. But yeah, overall, I still like the mechanics. I still like the acid mechanic, and that you have to kind of go around to avoid damage. I still like the headbox mechanic and the concept of the no-wig zones, even though it doesn't really do much anymore. Obviously, Witness mechanic is like my second favorite mechanic in the game. So obviously I'm a big fan of the Witness segments. Even though I will say, with the map being out for so long, it's gotten to the point where you just know every spawns, and it does kind of delete a lot of the magic. I will say that. But there are some really, really cool one-shot spots you can still do. Like the window trick upstairs. The trick to the co-op door upstairs with the dark area as well, where you can get a free one cycle without using an item. There's a lot of skill expression there. In general, like analyzing every room and, you know, getting as many bulbs out as possible. It can also get very scary up there once it's like one bulb left and there's the extra enemy because you failed the one cycle. Like, it punishes you in a way, which I think is decent enough, you know? That being said, though, it's not an S tier map for me. Like, I think I'm gonna place it here. I cannot put it in S. Again, I used to run Courthouse a lot, especially during early access. I still love the map, but I cannot confidently put it in S for the sole reason that the nerfs really make me bitter about the map itself. Like, the map is, yeah, it just changed with time. Like, for example, also the Berserker used to be in like the final encounter, It used to be in the final encounter on the doorway, which you had to be careful about, so you cannot just rush out when the giant comes out with the axe, right? You needed to be mindful about the Berserker blocking, like, the door, so you need to either stealth past him or, like, try to sneak around on the sides, There was, like, a lot more to this map that people don't remember or don't even know about because it has been so long, but, yeah. Still love it in my heart, I really love it in my heart, but I cannot confidently put it in S. It kills the pacing, the tutorial. Okay, here's the thing. I know it's a big deal for a lot of people. I am not really affected by the whole, oh my god, tutorials are killing this trial kind of thing. I get where they're coming from. I acknowledge that, but especially as someone that used to run this trial all the time, maybe I've just gone numb to the tutorials. Maybe that's just a solo me thing. Maybe, I acknowledge that that's probably something that could be improved easily. Like, for example, only one bulb on the tutorial witness, for example. Like, that, shit like that can definitely be, improved upon. But maybe I've just grown too numb to the tutorials on this main trial to a point where I'm just like, yeah, okay. Whatever, We're doing this every single fucking time, chat. We're doing this every single fucking time. The thing is, last time I did the tier list and I put Escape the Courthouse in S tier. After that, we had the Escape the Courthouse incident, if you remember. You remember the incident afterwards? Where I was, like, yelling like a Call of Duty kitty at, like, the witnesses because of everything that went wrong. And remember I made fun of you? Yeah, you remember that video? That's exactly what happened because I put Escape the Courthouse in S tier. What do? I will still keep it in S tier. I will admit, Escape the Courthouse aged. And it kind of shows because it's, right now it's... Okay, it's this witness, kill him this way. Oh, it's that witness, kill him that way. It's kind of aged, but it still doesn't change the fact that it gives me such an insane level of satisfaction. Like, when we talked about it a little bit, Happy Heart, right? About how you rate, like, a bunch of trials, you talk a lot about how much dopamine that gives you, right? Like, with a lot of the ratings, or, how much instant gratification satisfaction that gives you. For me, Escape the Courthouse is pretty much the level of that. Getting, like, that perfect one-shot flawlessly with, like, everything going right, Like, that is my very definition of that, for me personally, because I love the mechanics so much, and, I love all the spots of it. For example, on, like, the left side, right? On, like, the dark side, getting the snipe through the co-op double window, and just make that little bitch follow around and then kill him without even throwing anything at him. Doing the one shot in the final segment when he goes to the right and you get the first bulb. Maybe there are crest traps that you just destroy and he throws up so you don't even need to do anything else and, force the door on him or something like that. Like, getting these one shots is so fucking satisfying. It's so fucking satisfying. And at the end of the day, this MK to this day can still be scary. It can still be scary. Obviously not on the same level as some of the other contenders that will come down later, but it can still be scary, especially with enraged enemies. But yeah, I think this will be eternal for me, like S tier, unless they nerf it, which I hope will never happen, but who knows. Okay, Destroy the Evidence has a fall off, but not for the reason that you might think, okay? Destroy the Evidence has a fall off for me personally. I used to rate this very highly, and the main reason for that was because of the gate RNG. Like, the cool thing about Destroy the Evidence is learning the gate RNG. There are 3 different gate RNGs, and knowing, okay, this gate right now is closed, this gate is open, I know in which RNG cycle we are, so I know exactly how to walk around it, and, you know, how to beat it. However, with time, that got kind of boring to me. That got boring to me. I know a lot of people rate Destroy the Evidence very low for the reason that they hate the gates in general. But for me, it's more of it's rated lower because it kind of got boring. Because there's only 3 RNG paths. And most of the times when I play Destroy the Evidence, you can literally look up my VODs on, like, escalation attempts when I play Destroy. What I do is grab it, go right, all the way. I see which RNG we have. Okay, it's like, it's open, like in the further back, then I just drag it on and get the one from the dark area. By the time maybe the second gate lifts, so I just go mid, and then I go to library. Or if the further back is blocked, I just put it around the gate maybe, and then go mid still with the second one. Like, it's gotten so much routine. It's gotten so much routine at this point, you know? I know a big factor of people hating this is also the waiting part, which, to be fair, is just part of the game. So, yeah. And the fact that the jammer exists now is very good for this, and that should actually bring it higher, but I think it has to reside around here at this point. I think it has to reside at this point because I still like the concept of the acid mechanic. It's still I still like the concept that, you know, you have to be careful or otherwise you just damage yourself to death. I think that is a very, very good concept in general, but yeah. It's just Destroy would be so much better if there was more RNG, which isn't really good if there was more RNG, because then it would probably be more annoying than anything. So yeah, unfortunately, since it's been out for a while, it's just in this spot right here. Tilt the Scales of Justice. It's very middle of the road. Tilt the Scales of Justice is very middle of the road. I've not done a variator tier list itself. I might do that soonish too. This is very middle of the road for me. Tilt the Scales. Like I'm fine with like the box mechanic, and I think it's like fine itself. I think there's still this problem where most of the sides are dark and you just go through the dark side and there's no night hunter, so most of the times it doesn't feel there are a whole lot of threats on this map unless you make them threats, you know? So that is still a bit... It feels like very... how do you say? A bit fetch questy, because again, K1ll mostly patrols from box to box, but he goes through the middle, right? So as long as you go through the dark sides, like, because like this side is completely pitch black, this side is completely pitch black, you know? You can just go through the dark sides and like stealth around enemies, and there's not too many problems on that map for the most part, so... yeah. Mechanic is still good though. I will say the head nerf, I think, was justified, because 4 heads was insane. Especially since you had to like do them all, but then again, people also say that spread should not have 3 bottles solo, which I disagree with, so I shouldn't really talk about that too much. Shit, if anything. Oh yeah, Tilt has the cool thing with Coil has unique lines. Yeah, that is actually a plus point. That is true. Like Coil has like very unique voice lines for this, and I wish more MKs had this. Where prime assets have like unique voice lines. Fuel the Release. It's like the Sabo but better copy. It's the Sabo but better. I like the final encounter. Like I like the final generator segment where there's a bunch of different enemies. That is actually a plus point for this map for me personally. With like the giant, with Coil, with potentially Night Hunter, with the small guy, like all in this area that you kind of have to stealth around. If you stealth around it perfectly, then you can kind of do it flawlessly. But a lot of shit can still go wrong, and I think that is a redeeming quality, especially compared to something like Sabotage the Lockdown. I know I said earlier that Sabotage the Lockdown in Siege shit can also go wrong, but I think that does it a little bit better overall. That being said, though, it's still very fucking simple. And like the first two generators are normally very fucking boring, so... Sentence the Prosecuted. I will say something that is controversial, okay? I will say something about Sentence the Prosecuted that is controversial. I like the implementation of Sentence the Prosecuted more than Empty the Vault, personally. It's not necessarily because you have to do more decoder shit, but it's the whole package around it. It's prime asset protecting in the middle instead of Franco spawning in. And there's also the no-wick zones, which is a unique twist to it. I know it's essentially also like a copy-paste of Empty the Vault, so I can't really rate it too high up either, but like it's still, you know, it's not something like it does feel a little bit of an improvement how you compare what's it called, Garda versus Punish, a little bit, not by much necessarily, but a little bit, you know. And also it's the daily world, so that's pretty funny. So yeah, I don't really mind this one too much. Is it my favorite? No, but I think it's better executed than Empty the Vault to a degree. To be fair, Empty the Vault has the final encounter, which can be pretty cool. But yeah, we will get to that anyways, but yeah, I think Sentence is fine. I know people expected a lot more, and a lot of people just see, oh yeah, they just reused this mechanic, so it's kinda doo-doo. But I think this MK has like the better coda mechanic compared to Empty the Vault, personally. Pervert the Futterfuck is, I think, a very decent trial, and I think a lot of people have grown to enjoy it a lot more. This used to be a similar case to Downtown, which we'll get to later, or Fun Park, where when this came out, people hated it to no end. Like, I've played a lot of different escalation or like custom pervies, and overall I'm just having a good time, you know. I'm just having a good time. Like, obviously it has very simple mechanics. Like, the mechanics is probably the weakest part, with only like the conveyor belt mechanic and the key mechanic. But they implemented in a way where it's actually very decent overall. And the most interesting part is this was like the first main trial where people figured out that they used a lot of light in the environments itself, and there was a very little darkness overall, especially in the main toy factory area. So let's say you are doing like a stealth challenge or like no running or whatever, and you need to hide from, let's say, Gooseberry in the main area. That was very fucking scary, especially when it came out. Obviously nowadays it has changed a bit, but yeah, there used to be a lot of skips on this map. That being said though, the conveyor belt mechanic is very easy though. Like, once you know what you're doing, the conveyor belt mechanic is very easy. Like, let me break it down, okay? You go into the basement, and put all of them up in advance, right? If you're in the room, the grunt should never get you. You just put the one trash in and grab the other ones as they come by. Easy as shit. Easy as shit. A segment, you get the box up, you hide behind the pillar in case Gooseberry comes down, pick up the box, be done. For B and C, you also go do the same thing. Then you have the ground upstairs that you have to worry about. And then you like stay at the stairs to be like a little bit safe from like Gooseberry. Maybe use a bottle to distract in case she's camping hardcore. Maybe go into that hiding spot right next to the belt. Grab them all, easy peasy. C-box on the other conveyor belt, you just rush up with like an adrenaline, grab it, easy peasy. Like the conveyor belts are genuinely not bad once you know what you're doing. I remember when this came out and the conveyor belt mechanic was like considered like the worst mechanic ever because people kept missing the boxes. But once you're on top of your game, you shouldn't miss your boxes that much, and at that point it's more of a skill issue more than anything, or like very unlucky timings, like if you have insane variators on top of each other, you know. But even then, there is a skill to time your cold snaps or toxic shocks accordingly. Like I did a no damage A+ toxic shock speedrun on Pervy when it came out. Again, no damage, so I didn't take toxic shock. And that run is a very good example where if you time your boxes correct alongside the toxic shock, it's like such a knowledge check as well. It's such a knowledge check as well. And I mean, then you have the key mechanic, and then you have the final encounter. The final encounter is terrible. The final encounter is actually terrible though. Like, okay, getting the concept of getting the thing restarted, like you have to turn the valve and then you're basically on a time limit. Okay, that part is kind of decent. Also the enemy population. But the fact that Gooseberry spawns in and then spawns out after a while, that is terrible. I'm sorry, they should never do this ever again in a main trial. I know technically Lilia is the same, technically, but that's because she works in a very unique way. But they should never do this ever again in a main trial. Like, that is horrible. Horrible. But yeah, besides that, I think Toy Factory is very decent to play overall. I think low B. Low B. Crush used to be very similar. Crush used to be very similar in the vein that people hate the conveyor belt mechanic. I think Crush, like I can appreciate Crush a lot for the sole reason that it's still to this day can be very difficult, especially if you have rough variators. It can be very, very, very difficult to play, especially since you have to turn on the gens in order to see the things. It would be nice if there was a hidden buff for X-Ray where you can detect the boxes, like the correct box, or to detect the trap ones, for example. Like, for example, if you turn on X-Ray and you look at the boxes and you see like some steam coming on, like inside a box, you know it's trapped, and then you see, oh, this box isn't, okay, this is the correct one. To have like a stealthy playstyle where you don't need to turn on the generator, like that shit would be a nice improvement, I guess, if you want to go even further. But besides that, conveyor belt mechanic, I mean, again, as I said in Pervy, it's not my favorite, but I think it's also very manageable here. I can appreciate how scary E is. E segment and like the loading dock, especially if you're on a let it be no running, or like even something like in an escalation run, you have no heals available. A heal would, like a hit would give you in a full psychosis or any scary shit like that. E is scary. E is fucking scary. And I can appreciate that. C in a similar way, not so much, but like C can also be scary here and there. But like E is very fucking scary with the giant right there. But then there's also things you can do, like throw bottles strategically and shit like that. One thing that is weird about this map is that this map only has like 4 enemies: the guy at the beginning, Gooseberry, the guy in E, the guy in C, and there's nothing more. That is a bit weird, but I mean, it's a design choice. There used to be a time where, by the way, that was around Program Ultra, where there used to be 2 grunts at the beginning when you got into Crush. That was like for one patch. And that shit was insane. Like, there was a grunt around the incinerator, and there was a grunt right after that in the hallway. Like, that shit was insane. That shit was straight up insane. But yeah. Overall, I can appreciate the challenge of it. I fully understand if you disagree with this placement right here. I fully agree. I'm not agreeing, but like, I understand if you disagree, but I think Crush just has a lot of things that makes it challenging, which I enjoy. Especially managing, also managing shit like Jaeger conveyor belt. Making sure that Jaeger has enough distance, like preparing in advance, okay, the box is there, I need to do that much distance from Jaeger for me to get the box before she gets me. You know, little shit like that. And I mean, in general, that map in general is just, still to this day, can be pretty challenging. It's obviously not up there with like this shit, but it can still be very challenging. Okay, Incinerate. Incinerate is fucking terrifying, chat. It is ironic because Incinerate, I would categorize, if you have not that hard variators or if it's on lower difficulties, I would categorize it as a speedrun map, even. But on higher difficulties, Incinerate can be so fucking scary. Incinerate can be so fucking scary on higher difficulties. With like the 2 grunts, even struggling in like the first segment with the grunt can happen. And like having to lose them, because Incinerate has the Pervy syndrome, where there's a lot of light areas. Like, you're almost always, like, there's one exception on that one path, I guess, where you push it through the dark, but other than that, you're pushing it through the light all the time, pretty much, the card itself, that is. And that is so fucking terrifying. That is, like, that can be so scary, especially amplified with variators. I like this one a lot. It's definitely my favorite Toy Factory content right now. Like, that shit is so anxiety-inducing, especially if you have, like, yeah, what Draco says, like a no-running bleeding psycho with, like, only throwables, and you have to go one step at a time, and you have to use the card as cover at times, too, because you cannot get into a room, and there's a guy passing by, so you have to use the card as literally cover. Like, that shit is terrifying. That shit is absolutely terrifying. Shutdown is very fucking average in comparison. I like that it has the security doors, like the choice between security doors or lifting the shutter gate. I think that is very good as like a mechanic, but overall it's just very average overall. I kind of hate that there's still the soft lock to this day, where if you and C have that block path, you just cannot complete it if you get like bad RNG with the court. But like most of the times you just do all the pandas and then lock all of them at once anyway, so not that really much of a deal, you know. But yeah. That being said, though, it's like very average. I will say, though, I probably put this here. I enjoy it a little bit more than Sentence and Tilt. But it's like middle of the road for me, personally. Fumigate is splitting up with multiple people to do pipes. Now, unlike Grind the Bad Apples, I guess you can learn some pipe skips, but it's not really a thing, right? So you don't really have that level of skill expression that you have in Grind the Bad Apples, but I think this one is also like alright. I like that the Berserker has like this present in like has this presence on like the one side that was like desperately missing from like a lot of the other Trials and MKs we recently discussed. And you have like the one Gooseberry side and you have the one Grunt side. I just think it's fine. I don't really know what to say, like what else to say about Fumigate necessarily. It's just very average. It's kind of cool that you actually gas the factory and it turns into gas zones and you have to use the hiding spots. Normally that doesn't come into play, but every once in a while, for example, if you have no running and you don't have adrenaline sticks, it can come into play. And the fact that you have a final encounter where you're permanently gassed and you need to be very careful about that is kind of a unique and cool touch. I will give it that. Oh yeah, the voice lines. I am dying. I need water. I can't breathe. That is also hilarious, yeah. That is actually also hilarious. But yeah. That being said, though, it's also just average at the end of the day. It's average gameplay-wise, and, you know... Yeah. Again, the gas gimmick of, like, you're actually gassing the factory, and it actually gassing it up is kind of cool, but in terms of gameplay, okay, you do, like, 6 pipes. Okay, here and there. You learn a little bit about the RNG and how to handle enemies here and there maybe, but other than that, not much to it personally. Poison the Medicine has a bit dropped down for me personally. Let's talk about first why it dropped down for me. This is, like, Poison the Medicine is by far, in my opinion, the longest main trial. In the sense that it feels like the longest main trial. There are people arguing about the spoil, which I kind of understand. There are people thinking about pleasure when they talk about like longest main trial. I kind of disagree with pleasure, but I can still see the point. Poison the Medicine is, you know, the definition of, you know, a fetch quest that takes so long and overstays its welcome. Like, it already starts when you get into the drug lab and you have to go around, get the first drug, get the first drug package, push the cart all the way to the train station, which thematically makes sense, but in terms of gameplay, there isn't too much going on unless you get Cocaine Grunt on your ass or, you know, any reinforcements. Gameplay-wise, it doesn't really do a whole lot. And besides that, you have to do like the decoder thing. Okay, that's fine, but then you have to push it back. Now, the pushback makes more sense in terms of gameplay because that one is actually challenging, from Franco giving you back shots from the train station, the giant being around, Cocaine Grunt being a menace. That makes sense, but like the push to it could be made easier or like less time consuming, for example. And this entire trial, it kind of feels like, oh my god, this is like a long ass fetch quest. Like, people complain about the length of the trial with shit like Pleasure the Prosecutor all the fucking time, you know? But like, for me personally, it's most apparent in Poison the Medicine. It's just most apparent, because what do you do then? You push the card all the way, you have to do the trade window thing again for like all these things, then you have to do tutorial poison, then you have to get the poisons of like thingy, but then after you get on the poisons, you also need to fucking crank the thing, and then Cocaine Grunt is gonna come after you ass, and then you have to pick up the drugs, and then there's the final encounter, and maybe you have to do multiple runs. Yeah, you see what I mean? It's just a giant, ginormous ass fetch quest. Now, I'm not taking away from the fact that a lot of the objectives are actually pretty cool. The introduction of the decoder, the poison mechanic, that it kills you if you hold it for too long, combined with like the poison area. Like, there are really, really good mechanics within this, but it just is so dragged on. Like, it feels very dragged on, and some small quality of life changes, especially at the start of the card drug process would go a long way. Also some problems. I feel, in my opinion, I'm gonna say it, Franco was not utilized in this map well at all. I'm gonna say it. When does Franco show up? In the train yard and in the final encounter. The final encounter is completely stealthable, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but especially since this was his first main trial, it was kind of ugh. You know, it was kind of ugh. In terms of the awkwardness of waiting, him going down the stairs, you going up, trading places, whatever. Not to mention that most of the times, Franco's AI is kind of programmed in a way where he also kind of guards the drug pickup spot. So if you go ahead, pick up drugs in advance and drop them off at the staircase, like in advance before the final encounter starts, you can trivialize this a lot more than you might realize, because he's programmed to patrol around like above deck of the ship and also look at the drug drop-off, which means that, you know, a lot of the times you just do your business down there while he's like jerking off and wondering when you get the new drugs when you have already done it, you know? So that's a bit of a bad implementation. Not to mention that the train yard, for the most part, is more than dark. Like, okay, there are some spots here and there where, oh yeah, he has like line of sight, he's gonna shoot you, but like, yeah, like, most of the times it's just completely dark stealth segment, which I know is the point from, you know, a ranged character, but there aren't that many spots where he can realistically get you, which makes it feel more fetch questy than necessary. Like, a lot of maps later did this way better with Franco, you know? Like a lot of maps just did this way better overall. And it all reminds me of Shopping Mall. I know I'm talking already about Shopping Mall, because with Shopping Mall, like K1ll the Politician, people always go and say, oh my god, the quests have been horribly implemented. In my personal opinion, in retrospect, Poison the Medicine was also a bad implementation of Franco. Personally. Yeah, exactly, Renault. Because he looks at the drugs and like goes around his merry way, and then you do the final encounter in peace. Like, that happens a lot more than you may realize, especially when you prepare in advance. And again, the segment in the train yard, especially since it at least feels 70 to 80% in darkness. Like, this is the very definition of they played it safe for Franco when it came out, because they were scared that the perception of a ranged enemy would be terrible, you know? And in a way, that kind of mirrors K1ll the Politician. That's why I'm confident when the next Crestwin's main trial comes out that it might be better, you know? It will be a lot better and will be more for downtown or suburbs in terms of strength for the Crestwins, because this was kind of the tutorial going on and the map wasn't synergizing well. I feel Poison the Medicine is the exact same case, Chert. I think it's the exact same case. So yeah, where does this leave us though? Overall, maybe here, chat, maybe here. Which is definitely a fall off from before, I'm not gonna lie. But Poison Medicine, in my opinion, just has a lot of negatives to it, which I cannot really ignore, unfortunately. Poison the Cattle. One of the big downsides of Poison the Cattle, in my opinion, in its design, is that the train yard is not utilized at all. I know that's because, similar to the 2MK rule, they use like the same map for like, if there's a new environment, the first 2MKs you use the same environment. So that's why it also has the train yard on it. but it kind of feels weird because Poison the Cattle on higher difficulties is actually very heavily patrolled, but for the most part, Trainyard and even Casino to a degree is more or less optional unless you have to path it, you know? And that is kinda badly utilized, and it's very, very obvious the more you play it. Cattle Gas has to go down a tier for reusing the word poison. Yeah, that's funny. That being said though, I still think this map is still very, very cool for the fact that it is essentially a stealth segment, getting the poison to the middle, because the train station, unlike Poison the Medicine, has no darkness. Unlike Poison the Medicine, it has no darkness, so you actually have to stealth properly from a ranged character. And the segment itself is just very cool. Also, in general, it just feels very, what do you call it? It also just feels very difficult with, again, the enemy distribution. There are a lot of enemies on this map. And also screamers, which can fuck you up a lot. And getting the poison out is also very tricky at times if you get block pass, if you get limited hiding spots too as well. Because unlike Poison the Medicine, I haven't really talked about the poison segment, but one thing about Poison Medicine's poison segment, it also felt very undercooked in the main trial. Because you don't really need to utilize hiding spots, because there was like a breathing room here, there was a breathing room there, here, there. In Poison the Cattle, you have to think a lot more about your pathing in Chemco, because you need to stay there in general for a lot longer in the gas itself. So that's also a lot scarier in general. And also one cool feature about Poison the Cattle is obviously the lever gate. Now that you have Jammer, you can also use it from the other side, which also, I'm gonna be biased, a map gets a plus point for that, if there is like a mechanic like that, is hidden like that, but having the one-way lever gate is also a really, really unique thing, which I hope other MKs or even main trusts adapt in the future maybe. So I think that's also pretty cool. So yeah, overall for the challenging aspect, I think Poison the Cattle is gonna be up here, especially for the final encounter for me personally. And it's like always fun to play for me personally. Empty the Vault is... I mean, here's the thing, now that I look at this list, I don't know if I'm gonna put it below Sentence the Prosecutor necessarily. Okay, Empty the Vault. Let's talk about the problems I have with this map. Empty the Vault has this... Like some MKs have like this thing where the prime asset spawns in and out, right? I haven't really talked about that because it isn't... It is a bit of a deal, but I feel with a map like Empty the Vault, it's like a very big deal. I feel like. With a map like this, it's a very big deal. Overall, finding the codes is fine. It's just the environment isn't necessarily my favorite. It's also, there aren't that many code spawns, unlike Sentence the Prosecuted, so it's like, always feels like this is same old as well. It can be a challenging map at times, like we had a very challenging one on the 100 part 1, when we went for 100 escalation, we had like a very challenging Empty the Vault. Final encounter is cute with the box, getting that out, especially without heavy training, that's scary as shit to rush that out. It's actually worth farming an adrenaline for that. But yeah, other than that, Empty is just kind of average too, though. Like, Empty is also is like average. Do I just wanna straight up put it right below Sentence to Prosecuted? Does that make sense? I think that does make sense. Okay, Stash the Contraband I actually like a fair amount, actually. I actually like Stash quite a fair amount. You have these different barrels in the different zones, and you kind of have to play around the mannequin doors, which I think is pretty cool that they implemented that way, especially since Jammer is just king on this map. Or you have to, if you're impatient enough, you have to take a risk and go through the security door, and then, deal with more enemies. And this map is also very enemy dense, so I think it kind of plays in that very well. You can also bait enemies to open the mannequin doors for you, which is a cool advanced strategy you can do on this map. And yeah, besides that, what else is there to say? Fun Room is pretty funny, yeah. It is a scary map. Overall, I don't know if this is maybe around here. I don't know. I don't know if it's necessarily 8 though. I don't really know, chat. Like, for me personally, I don't know. Like, I really like the jammer synergy on this map personally. Encourages you to not run something like stun. There's also some RNG levels that you can learn, like similar to Destroy the Evidence, the gate thing. You can learn that. So that's also a plus, that it has like a skill thing that you can learn. Similar to like the barrel spawns and everything. Yeah, I think I'm gonna place it here. I know people are gonna be like, what the fuck are you doing now? But the fact that you have to be stealthy and methodical on this map too, because of the mannequin doors, is also a plus for me in my books. Alright, Cook the Informant. This used to be a very hated map. A very hated map. And here's the thing, I used to really not like this map too, even though it was a witness map. But guess what happened, chat? Guess what happened? I found a way to make this map work with the Enraged Informant one-shot tag. I will say something, I don't know if people agree with this statement, but getting an Enraged Informant one cycle is one of the most difficult and skill expressive things in this game. Maybe I'm exaggerating. Maybe there's something where you go, well, actually, it's this, that. If it's not, then it's still up there. If you get, for example, Enraged Informant, and you try to pull off the one-shot and you manage to do that, with the guy patrolling on the train yard as well, I think it is one of the most skill-expressive things you can do in this game right now. Maybe not the most, but like one of the most, personally. Yeah, the train yard grunt is like very scary, and like one of the main reasons why. If he wasn't there, then like the one-shot would always be free, but that guy is so scary. That one guy is fucking scary, and you always have to keep it in mind. Especially since the train yard, just like Poison Cattle, is also lit up as shit. So not only do you have to time the one-shot well, you also have to keep in mind when reinforcements spawn, like a pitcher pusher that could ruin the one-shot, but also the grunt itself. Like, if you're on the bridge, you actually have to stealth around him at times, because he can see you across and then go down and fuck you up. So it's very difficult to pull it off. And yeah, like, that shit would be like, yo. That being said though, this map has some issues though. I think the concept of the gates is good. It's just not implemented well. Though. Like the concept of the witness gates. I really hope to see them again in an MK or main trial where it actually matters. But the gates itself, besides the first few playthroughs, I never engaged with them, because there's no RNG to them. How to get to the train yard one-on-one, you jump out the window, like right where the corp jump is, the famous one, and then you jump up the train and you are there. You never have to engage with these gates unless he escapes and he's in some obscure place and you don't know how to get there. Then maybe, but you don't really engage with these gates at all, which I think is a bit of a oof. Like, I know maybe people would hate the map more if it wasn't like that, but the fact you can just ignore the new cool mechanic altogether is kind of... I like the concept of the unstable microwave trigger, though. I will say that you have to kind of stack your inventory full of them and, you know, manage your inventory that way. I do like that concept, but yeah, the gates are kind of ass. And I don't really want this to bias the tier list too much, but the fact that this is the 4th Dogs MK with the same fucking map layout is so bad. That is so bad. That is so bad. I would really have loved for this instead to be, let's say, a downtown MK where the witness actually was in like the main trial. I would have loved for that to be like a downtown MK with maybe the gates or anything, and like in a cool environment, like let's say the sewers, you know, instead of the exact same environment we had in Poison, we had in Empty, and we had in Stash already. Like the exact same environment. Now there is also this thing what a lot of people complain about all the time. Oh, Hottie, thank you for the fucking raid, thank you. Sorry, we're yapping a lot right now. We are doing tier list right now for like maps, so I'm sorry that you joined at a non-gameplay time. Thank you so much for the raid though. Hope you had a great stream. Hope you had a good stream. But yeah, I'm currently talking about Cook the Informant right now. There's a lot of this talk when he actually escapes that this trial becomes F tier because you don't know where he goes. There is a skill to knowing, okay, when Franco patrols, like around where Franco patrols, you know he is around there, and that is a skill you can learn to detect him without the detector. However, I would still have preferred it if, you know, it was like Escape the Courthouse and you knew the general vicinity, or like Vindicate, same thing, or like Pleasure. So yeah, I'm also not the biggest fan of it, but it's also worth acknowledging that there is a skill to, you know, knowing this. Here's the question though, where do I put this shit? Where do I put the... Am I biased? Okay, chat. Am I crazy if I want to put this a little bit above just because of the one-shot? And the concept of the one-shot? Am I insane? Maybe I am. But then it's also further down because of the map research. And the gates being so lackluster. Fuck. Fuck it, I'm gonna place it here. And move on. This is my favorite main trial in the game, which I think a lot of people are very fucking surprised to see this and probably still do not understand the concept of it. Pleasure the Prosecutor is the very definition of a stealth trial. Every single objective, side objective, final encounter is stealth based. And I'm such a fan of the whole concept of it. I like the witness mechanic. It's way better than in Vindicate. It's way better than in Vindicate because it is open-ended. However, it's not as scuffed as in Cooked. You can learn where the witnesses are depending on what location you get and by listening to the soundtrack, which is something a lot of people don't even talk about. There's skill expression there. There's skill expression in obviously killing them if you find like a good angle to take them out and force them to bash a door. Thank you for extending the gift sub, Louis. Thank you. I don't know why it doesn't show up as a notification still. I don't know why, but thank you so much. Appreciate it. There's skill expression in like taking down the witnesses, obviously being stealthy, getting like sneaky angles, especially if it's enraged witnesses. But then there's also the capture point segments, which currently is my favorite mechanic in the game. It's literally it. You need to stay in a sector and stealthing around enemies while the sector gets like more heated up. That's like the concept of it. And I like it as a concept. I will say, Spread does this a billion times better than the main trial. I will give it that. And that's why I think Pleasure might be lower S for me down the line. But I still like the implementation of like the capture points. All of them are very manageable to play as well. Besides Motel. Motel can suck my dick. Actually, Motel is like very funny as like a challenge thing, but like Motel is like fucking hell. Also, Franco Backchat, thank you for gifting us up to Drake. Thank you. Fucking goat again. But yeah, I like the witness mechanic. Like, summarizing Pleasure, why I love Pleasure, is just because the main two objectives you do, killing witnesses and I was about to say spreading disease, but like, capture point segments are just my two favorite objectives in the game. It's that simple. It's that simple. Combine it with the fact that, yeah, it's kind of rough that it's like an open-ended map, so Franco patrols like very wildly, and you get to a point where you might not even really see him because he's like all the way around. But, for example, if he catches you in Town Square or like in Chinatown, there is no darkness. Unlike in Poison Medicine, there is no darkness. So guess what? You actually have to stealth around him. And like there's very limited cover too with like buses. So you have to actually stealth around him and respect his gun too. Like you have to stealth around him. Also, what else? I wanted to say something, but I immediately forgot it again. Fuck. This map has a pizzeria, so it's immediately S tier. Just kidding. Okay, final encounter, I won't lie, is a bit iffy because the final encounter got nerfed. The final encounter got a bit nerfed. I think it's still in a decent enough spot to where I think it's a decentable threat, but I do miss a little bit of release pleasure. Pleasure, the buttons were way louder, so you had to engage with Franco a lot more. If you play down Pleasure like a pro, just play it down. You can normally 2-cycle the final encounter without any issues, so that's a bit but that's also for me playing the map a whole lot, to be fair, but yeah. Also the one downside, I guess, to this map, which I will not put it in A for that reason, but I acknowledge that that is a big problem with the map, is enemy distribution. I want you to do a thought experiment real quick, okay? I want you to do a thought experiment real quick, chat. I want you to tell me, if you put every single capture point enemy away, how many enemies are on this map? I give you a little bit of time. How many enemies are on this map? Not counting pouncers and screamers, by the way. Like, how many patrolling enemies are on this map when you take away all capture point? 2, exactly. Exactly. There's Franco, and there's the guy at the very end. That's all the enemies that are on this map. There's such a missed opportunity to have a Berserker in Town Square. A Night Hunter patrolling up in thingy in the dark alley. There's such a missed opportunity, and that comes to shine a little bit when you deal with the witnesses and there's not many people stopping you most of the times, and that's a bit iffy on this map. But besides that, like, let me phrase it that way too. Courthouse got nerfed. I kinda lost my love. Downtown actually got nerfed as well. Like, there used to be a time where More and Deadly Traps 2 was Space Kid in any capture zone, which was a very cool concept. And obviously Bunny Matter didn't exist when it came out too. So, This used to be a lot harder and got nerfed over time, but it still doesn't change the fact that I love this map still. Like, not the exact same when it came out, I guess, but like, I still love this map a lot, so yeah. It definitely deserves to be up there. Anyways, there's a lot of downtown glazing, but yeah, it's just as simple, chat, as this is the stealth incarnate main trial, and I'm playing Outlast Trials for the stealth aspect. I'm not playing it for like the speedrun aspect or anything, or like rushing through everything. I play it as a stealth game because to me it is a stealth game, and like this main trial is stealth game incarnate with its objectives, with its enemy strats and everything, you know, so it's as simple as that. Kidnap the Mistress. Kidnap could be a really, really good MK. I like the concept of the detective stuff. I like the whole mannequin mechanic around it. I like the dialogue of the mannequins, that they are getting high and everything. However, I do not enjoy this MK for one reason and one reason only. I do not understand why this is still a thing. It got fixed with Crush immediately. It got fixed with Pervert immediately on release. I do not know why you can still YOLO the mannequins. I would love this MK tenfold. Hell, it might be the S tier for me. It might be S tier for me for an MK that isn't like ultra hard, because I just love the theme of it, but I just can't because you can completely ignore the detective work shit still. Like the concept of this MK that you actually borderline do detective work is so cool. And obviously, I love the downtown MK area with the sewers, with like the little town square thing into the, like the motel. Then you have like the lower sewers with like old subway, speakeasy. I love this environment. It's like also going over like to like spread the disease. And I love the objective, but like the fact that you can still YOLO mannequins, you just do the radio and then you listen for like the location and try all of them out without punishment. It needs to be fixed in order for me to actually enjoy this one. It needs to be fixed for it to actually go like go up there. I did talk to the devs about it. I think I've talked about it to them, and that they're gonna investigate, so hopefully it's getting fixed soon. But right now, as it stands, I just cannot enjoy it because I cannot enjoy the gimmick of it, you know? Like, if you don't do the detective shit, it's doing a few radios and then picking up a mannequin and putting it, like, into a location. Now, there is a lot of other good shit going. For example, once the mannequin has to be delivered and in the final encounter, Franco hardcore camps the sex shop, which is very scary on higher difficulties. So that is, you know, that is very cool as like a concept in itself. But yeah, Downtown Berserker is also pretty menacing, I won't lie. But yeah, I just cannot really enjoy it in its current state. I just really cannot. Fuck it, I'm even gonna take it on top of B. It can easily climb up once that bug gets fixed, but I'm not gonna go on this tier list and go like, oh yeah, I'm assuming this bug gets fixed next week, because I want you to put you in a perspective. This MK has been out for almost a year at this point, and you can still YOLO mannequins. So I'm just gonna be rough and say, yeah, I do not like this. Like I do like this in concept, but like right now, the fact that you don't have to do the fucking detective work and learn, like, I still do not know what the weapon classification is. I still do not know that, because I never learned that, because I never needed to learn that, and that is kind of bad. That's kind of bad in my opinion. I know that this, I will say one thing when we're talking about spread the disease. The fact that Destroy the Prostitute is the most fun I've ever had in this game ever. Ever. Like, Destroy the Prostitute. Like, grinding the multiple versions of it. And I will probably grind one again if they actually implement, like, Lilia Variate or some shit. Or, like, make Toxic Shock and Permafrost possible. I might grind it again. Like, we're gonna do a Destroy Prostitute 4.0 maybe. I don't know. But, I will say, like this placement right here is biased from the fact that grinding Destroy the Prostitute is like the most fun I've ever had in this game so far. It beats Escalation for me. It beats any other custom I've played before. And like any sessions, or like the fun invasion sessions we had. Like for me, the Destroy the Prostitute grind was like, that is shit. That is peak. It perfects the capture point mechanic by making you actually lock in. One thing I've not talked about it in Pleasure is, once you know what you're doing, there's very little reason to sacrifice progress. One mechanic about the capture points is that if you can't get to the next checkpoint, you actually lose progress. Like, for example, you had one checkpoint at 30, and then it goes up to like 60, but you have to leave the room at like 58. It goes back down to 30, so it forces you to like stay in, especially when enemies are around. That's like very scary, and it forces your stealth skills. This is not really a thing with Pleasure the Prosecutor. Maybe in Motel. Or if it gets like really wild, I guess it can happen in other zones with like specific enemy variators or specific other variators. It can happen. But for the most part, in Pleasure, it doesn't really happen that much. On Spread the Disease, on the other hand, it happens all the fucking time. And I remember when I grinded Destroy the Prostitute, especially with all the variators like Jaeger, Cold Snap, or like Jaeger Permafrost, Countdown, having to make choices like opening a gate now or leaving this gate closed and locking myself in, which is incredibly tense. Or like, okay, I need to actually get the fuck out now, because otherwise I'm gonna die, but the timer is still going up. So do I greed it to make to the next checkpoint, or do I sacrifice my progress in order to get the fuck out and save myself and then go back in, you know? Oh yeah, definitely. Like, one thing, like Destroy the Prostitute especially, but like Spread the Disease, especially with Jaeger, has so much skill application. It has so much skill application. For example, Speakeasy is a good example, because Speakeasy you can play with Jaeger Cold Snap inside, if you play it correctly. Or on Snack Bar, the jump. The railing jump. Like outside, there's so many little techs every segment has. Pleasure the Prosecutor does not really have that. Like, it does have it a little bit if you want to play it down. For example, on Garage, that you lure the guy upstairs and then you force him to break down the door and then you turn around. Like, there are little things here and there, but not to that degree of Spread the Disease. And the main reason why that is important for Spread the Disease is because normally, unless you hold the gates open, you're locked into a zone with an enemy, maybe even more. If you have like an enraged pitcher or Jaeger or whatever in there, there's just so much level of skill expression. There's like, how do the enemies behave? Like, what are dead angles where you know, okay, normally the enemies move this and that. There is an angle right there. For example, Bank Vault is a good example. I know right next to one of the gates, there's a dead angle there, that if I AFK there, the guy does not fucking see me ever when patrolling. But then if Jaeger comes in, then I'm fucked there and I need to relocate like that, you know? Like, it's just stealth. Like, also Spread the Disease is just the stealth perfection. I know people hate the capture point mechanic. I mean, they also hate the witness mechanic, but I really hope there's gonna be another iteration of this at some point in the future, with maybe like a different mechanic attached to it, you know, because it's hard to find like a trial that gives me as much joy to grind as like Destroy the Prostitute, you know. Like it's literally the improvement. It's literally the upgrade of Pleasure the Prosecutor's capture mechanic, and it's done so well. It's done so well in this one, especially with like the skill ceiling. Like for example, when you start Spread the Disease, you think Fire Station is the most impossible thing ever. I can tell you though, a normal Fire Station with no interference of variators, I can beat that easily now, without taking damage. By like a good movement and like good prediction of like enemy patterns and shit like that. Like there's also a huge ass skill ceiling in general of this MK. I will agree that, you know, some people will say, oh my god, it's just so long, oh my god, it's just so boring. And like a lot of the carrying of this MK comes down to custom trials or escalation with like different variators. I will admit that, okay? I will admit that. But like a lot of the variator combos you get on this is just in terms of how it transforms the trial. And again, I find it so hilarious that Spread the Disease came out with Jaeger onboarding. It literally released with Jaeger onboarding. And people needed to learn the hard way about the Jaeger respawn thing, which was so nuts. Oh, and yeah, small things like that. For example, if you have permafrost, for example, and you have the electro room, that is a bad seed, and you need to play it accordingly. You know, like there's so much to unpack. Maybe I'm also just simping too hard because I didn't explore a lot of the other trials as much as this, and there's maybe a hidden MK or main trial that has as much depth as this has, but I still think that Spread the Disease, especially with variators, has like a lot of skill ceiling and like hidden things that you can learn with time, which I don't know how many MKs that actually go on that level. Anyways, Traffic the Product. I do like about Traffic the Product, low-key, that the sewers are kinda gone. And that makes the map very small. And the problem that we had earlier with Franco on like Pleasure the Prosecutor is gone from Traffic the Product. Like that is very well implemented in itself. Also, there's like not that much dark. I mean, there is around Snack Bar and I guess in the sex shop. I guess, and around the motel a little bit. But overall, this map, you do like big objective with like getting the drugs here, there, with like the money here, there, here, there. And it feels like Franco's almost always on you, especially in some customs. It feels like Franco's almost always on you, which is very well done in my opinion. Because it just forces you to also stealth around it, you know. Bitch better have my money. Or like that guy, oh, you wanna do a job, Franco? It's easy as pie. Just don't let Franco see you. Alright, bet. How about you make the boss some money? Like, that guy is also pretty funny, I'm not gonna lie. But I love also that the card is completely optional. I hope we get more stuff like this. Because pushing the card, especially if you have certain variators or if you're solo or whatever, can be a good idea, but it doesn't force you to do it. It doesn't force you to do it. You can technically get them all one by one. Like, imagine this with acid, for example. You can put them on acid, like let's say you have an MK with acid, but you have a card, and you need to get it to different locations. And it's like a choice between you carrying the acid normally, but you have to carry it slow, or like put it on a cart and then you can kind of rush it, but you are forced on a track. Like, for example, that could be pretty peak, right? So I hope this is like a good starting stone with this, right? that the card can also be utilized for other things, which is hilarious, like getting the boxes to the exit, or like the water for like the fire barrel side objectives. I think that is very fucking cute. And yeah, there's not much else to say about this besides that I really enjoy it. It's very insane. Okay, please someone tell me, is there a different exit, or like, I mean, entrance is debatable, but like exit in any trial that is harder than this? The fact that you don't have the sewers, you have Franco and the giant at the end. Am I stupid, or is this not the hardest final encounter, like the hardest exit in the game, by the way? Oh yeah, poison canisters. Yeah, like poison canisters. It doesn't have to be acid, but like, for example, poison canisters could be an idea. Yeah. So yeah, the hardest one, yeah, it's definitely going up. It's definitely going up for me. Yeah, there we go. Let's talk about Liquidate the Union. Let's put it here for now. I don't know if it's gonna be S. I do not know. But they cooked with Liquidate. I will say they cooked with Liquidate. Now I will right in front say, yeah, Kill the Room. Kill the Room is probably the one thing. Kill the Room was the one custom that Sus made when Liquidate came out. And similarly to Spread the Disease, it was such a fun experience to, you know, in general, like grinding that out with like Subscribe and Server back then. That was so fun to grind for, and I will still say it. I know people disagree with that, but I think it's harder than Despoil. I think Liquidate is still the hardest main trial in the game for me personally. So yeah. Radio Mechanic is obviously reused, but I think it's good enough of a twist with the you have to do that in a certain order. And I think this can make the trial a lot, and I mean a lot harder. Especially since unlike Pleasure the Prosecutor, Liquidate actually nails the enemy spawns. Like that is the one thing when I think about Liquidate which really stands out as an improvement. Obviously the Berserker. The Berserker at this rate with the main trials has been absent since Courthouse. And now he is finally being really introduced not only once but twice in a very good way. But even then, like Night Hunt is also well utilized in the slum area. And in general, it really feels as if lots of people had feedback about Pleasure that the enemy distribution was dog shit, and they took it personally and knocked it up out of the park in like Liquidate regarding like the enemy distribution. Actually, I didn't even talk about the lever gate at the start. The lever gate is also, it's not a big thing at the beginning on Town Square, but if you don't have Jammer, you kind of have to be stealthy, or if, you know, the enemy aggro's on you, then it's kind of hard to get the lever gate open. And I think that is a really nice touch. But yeah, other than that, the radio mechanic, I know people do not like it because it's just a reused mechanic, but I do like the twist that it has to be in the order, because in both the neighborhood and slum segments, there is RNG you can learn for the radius as well. It's like, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's like entrance houses, back houses, and fallout shelter. Like there's 6 radius total, and like 1 per sector that I just named. It's beginning of slums, upstairs, and the houses right next to the factory, where there is a 1 radio each. And that is RNG you can learn. And once you learn RNG, there's like a there's like a skill ceiling to it, you will improve time-wise as well. So that is very nice. The payload is also a really nice touch, especially with Neighborhood. Neighborhood is, like Crab said it the best, it's literally a no man's land. And it's very, very fucking scary to be up there, especially if you have specific variators with like the giant right there and also Franco. Like that is such a scary segment too. In general. Now there is a lot of spaces where you can hide in the dark in like the houses, but this like the neighborhood segment, if you have to push through and is under specific conditions with like variators, it can be so terrifying, and it's like one of the reasons why I think this is like the hardest map in the game right now, personally. Not to mention the final encounter. Now here's the thing where it's kind of the deciding factor, and this is why I would probably put it in A rather than S. I still think, for me personally, the final encounter is my favorite in the game, but the fence thing, I don't want to say it ruined it for me, but it kind of feels wrong. The fence thing upstairs, it just feels wrong. Because previously, maybe it's just a skill issue and I just need to learn a lot more about the map and like use the other cover effectively, but especially with like the god fence upstairs, like how it used to be, it felt such a dynamic finale. Up until this point, the final encounters of both Poison the Medicine and Pleasure the Prosecutor were incredibly stealth based, right? But which, you know, I enjoy that too, not so much in Poison Medicine, mind you, because there isn't really much engagement, but like in Pleasure I enjoyed it. But on Liquidate the Union, it kind of twists it. Yes, you can play it stealthy too, you're also a little bit encouraged to play it stealthy, but you can do this different play styles of being like, I don't even want to say a superhero, but like, you can do this different playstyles of like the dynamic, okay, dodge this shot left and right, cover here, cover there, go in there, hit that target, get the fuck out, lure him there, bait this shot, go into cover there, and it felt like incredibly dynamic. So yeah, that part is like, yeah, it got a little bit lost with like the fence thing. And I'm not gonna lie, I don't know if it should even be that big of a deal for me personally. I think it might be, and I just need to learn a lot more. I just feel the dynamic got a little bit lost because that was designed to be dynamic, you know? It's still a fun final encounter, it's still the best in the game, because there is also skill expression and actually aiming, because let's say Franco is like here and there with like enraged, and you need to take far shots, or like accurate shots, which, you know, then people make fun of my aim all the time, but like the fact that far shots are also being rewarded, especially if you have to be stealthy in a scenario, like that is also pretty good. Would this placement change if you couldn't YOLO the codes in Mansion? Actually, that's true. I haven't even mentioned that. Yeah, you can still YOLO Mansion. This trial would be S if they did another objective for slums. Yeah, you can debate that actually. Not an easy segment. Yeah, I forgot to talk about Mansion actually. Yeah, the code thing with like the different rooms. Yeah, Mansion is fucking PTSD heaven too. Not only Neighborhood, but Mansion as well. Fuck. Maybe I can make the argument that YOLOing in Mansion shouldn't even be a thing, and it should be punished as much as Get Out the Vote. Because, you know, you should like look at every single room, you know. So I don't know how to feel that actually, because obviously that was the saving grace for Kill the Room, mind you. Yeah, exactly. Like, the final encounter is very much designed around Franco, you know? It really feels designed around this character, whereas the other two were just okay for stealth segments, which again, with Pleasure, I didn't mind it as much because of the whole package. But like, with Poison, it's like, the flaws are more obvious, and Liquidate is just the name. Fuck, I'm gonna do it, chat. I'm gonna do it. It's definitely gonna be the lowest of low S. Because here's the... It, yeah, like, the entire package is really fucking good, though. Like, the segments, the enemies, and everything. Yeah, fuck it. We're gonna leave this as S. Get out the vote. Get Out the Vote is by far probably the most fun MK from a story perspective, I will say. Like, some MKs in the past have like little story segments here and there, but like, Get Out the Vote has like everything about like the story is perfect, you know? The setup about the committing voter fraud, as well as like the dialogue. Like, everything is just right with it too. And then the objective, oh my god. There are houses where you need to do the code, which is literally PTSD. Like, imagine what I said earlier about the neighborhood, but that's the entire fucking map. Like, Get Out the Vote is just so good for that. Now, I do not know how I actually think about the fact that you can prepare houses at advance. How do you think about that, chat? Let's actually have a discussion a little bit. How do you think about the fact that you can do the thing where you can do houses at advance? The advantage, obviously, is that it makes the trial a lot more dynamic and you have a lot more decision making, right? But the downside would be that you less put on the spot, if that makes sense. So I wonder how you guys feel about that for different strategies. Yeah, I think it is probably a good thing. Yeah, then. It's just Get Out the Vote doesn't put you as much of a spot as like some of the other hard MKs. Like, if you, for example, compare to Disrupt the Neighborhood, you need to do the radius no matter what in that order, right? And like in this segment, no matter what. I mean, I guess you can compare to Spread the Disease, where you can do this capture point first or this capture point first if it gets too heated around the enemies outside. I guess that is a good comparison, but oh yeah, intro snatches and maybe like it's less than yeah, you make fair points, chat. It's probably a good thing then. I was just thinking that would diminish the difficulty a lot. Because I'm always thinking about what Sus said when he played this for the first time. Where like he expected that you have to do the houses in order. And then when he found out, he was like, oh, that makes it like a lot easier, you know? And the mission is just a lot of the, oh my god, this is so difficult kind of factor. But yeah. Pushing the guy through the entire neighborhood with 3 fucking enemies plus potential reinforcements is insane. Doing the houses can be nuts as well. Not as much, but like the difficult part is pushing the guy in. And I mean, in general, this MK just fucking cooks. Disrupt the Neighborhood, I think, is gonna be like high A for me. Maybe. I don't think it's gonna be S for me personally. So yeah, it's the entire thing of the order of the radios with generator attached to it, which is very scary. Like that part is very scary. What I do like about Disrupt the Neighborhood, and that carries it for me, is that you can learn the radio RNG. And that helps a shit ton. That you learn, okay, there's 2 generators, 3 radios attached each. Of any sequence, the first 2 is on one generator, and always the last one, and only the last one, is connected to the second generator. And with that, you can be very efficient on this trial and make like good YOLO plays according to that. I've done it a lot before recently in Escalation, and knowing this kind of level of strats is very nice for this. Also, I will say, the neighborhood is utilized well, but the school is also utilized to a very terrifying degree. Yeah, it's always 1-1-2 or 2-2-1. Yeah, it's always like that. It's always like that. Which is such a nice thing to know on this MK. Which makes it a lot easier. But at the same time, it's also like one thing that I will praise high. That, you know, once you know that and once you learn to play with that information, you can make cool plays in this MK. But yeah, what I wanted to say is the neighborhood is also obviously very designed from like enemy distribution, but also the school. The school is nuts. The school is not scary. With like the giant voting ground and Franco patrolling in between. Like that shit is very scary too. The one thing is, I guess the one thing holding it back a little bit for me is a little bit what Get Out the Vote had a little bit with like the lore, because obviously there isn't really much lore on like Disrupt the Neighborhood, but like very fucking solid MK. I know lots of people hate that, but for me, like it's the combination of the environment is very scary of like this neighborhood PTSD, but at the same time, learning knowledge with like the generator radios makes you feel like you're fucking smartest, even though it's not that deep, but it makes you still feel like that, you know. Let's finish this off. Shopping Mall Kill the Politician. I will say I don't mind playing this trial at all. I do not mind playing it. I think it's like cute in concept. Objectives here and there are fine too. However, the entire thing obviously feels undercooked, goes without saying, and the prime asset isn't utilized the best. I think that is something that a lot of people agree with in general. Like, what do we have objective-wise? We have like the fuse thing, which, you know, you have like the beginning area with the fuse is fine. Then you explore the entire shopping mall for like to get the fuse, which in all that's fine, you know. All in all that's fine. One thing that would have been nice to have with like Kill the Politician, I know it was reserved for the MK, but what if you had to get 2 tickets, one in department store and one in Spadlin, and in Spadlin you do something different, for example. Yeah, the thing is about the fuse mechanics, most of the times it doesn't really do anything, and I feel the fuse mechanics is way better in Investigate, by the way. We will get to that, but like in Kill the Politician, you just randomly go in, take one, wait until he like walks by, and then leave. It is kind of cool that every single shop has a few spots, so technically you can overpopulate the main trial. I'm pretty sure that's possible. However, it doesn't really have any application besides making the mass segments harder, I guess. So I guess having that possibility is still pretty cool from like map design. Not to mention some of the few spots like upstairs, right besides the escalators going up from the politician, or like the few spots in the employee-only area connecting like the toilets to pet shop and the other salon thing. Like there are some few spots. I still feel the mechanic was largely underutilized though. Like I would have loved for fuses to be more meaningful in the main trial, similar to Investigate, where you had to like backtrack and actually think about your fuse usage a little bit more. So yeah, like the biggest thing where fuses come into play is in the department store in the back, but there's also no decision making there either. Like department store is the equivalent to poison medicine. Like we talked about this earlier, right? With poison medicine, don't you think this is like the perfect comparison? In terms of like first main trial, first introduction of like the prime asset. I know the Crest also patrol pizzeria area like at the very beginning. I know that, but like if you want to compare these two, like the objective encounter with the prime asset, like it's mostly dark in the department store too at the back, where you normally get the big boxes. You just stealth past them when they go into the dark area, deliver a box, go back into the dark, let them pass again, rinse and repeat. So what if the fuse spot at the back actually lights up this area? That would be so much better and actually gives you something to think about, because right now you just put in the fuse right there and just get the boxes out, and the only thing you have as agency is get an extra fuse from the previous segment, you know? That's like the only thing, you know? Also, now that you say the scanners make noise, what if there were some boxes where if you put them on the cashier thing, it would just blow up, for example? So you have to actually use the scanners, and it shows like a digital skull if it actually, you know, blows up. I know there's already an incentive to do the scanning for like the big boxes, because otherwise you would just get the 249 to like the front and then you just fucking die. And you don't die because the skull thing is nothing, but like you would just die inside that you carried like a 249 heavy box, which by the way, I think the heavy box is a decent mechanic that you can't jump. Makes like sharp glass and a lot of this other stuff way more meaningful. But yeah, what else? Like imagine if you put in the fuse in the back, it actually also lights up the area, and then you actually have to stealth using cover against the crest. That would make that segment so much better with like a simple improvement. If you are currently kind of hunted, you have to pull the fuse out to make the area dark again, but then you cannot pull out the large boxes, you know? Would be like way more dynamic. Like that's what I mean. Like the fuses are a cool mechanic that was introduced here. I just hope future MKs utilize them better, because I feel that's very untapped potential. And similar, obviously, going to the prime asset. Like the prime asset, beginning at the pizzeria, okay, it's like a wide area, so you can dodge the vials quite well, and the slower movement speed doesn't really help. Department, kind of similar, parallel to poison medicine. And after that final encounter, okay, we get to final encounter, then we have the mass segment, which is hilarious because it's the one time where if you're actually good at something IRL, it actually translates. If you can do quick math, you can do it literally in Grunt's face. But if you can't, then you might have more troubles in the segments with Grunts. That being said, though, it's not really a factor. It would be more if it was light up more. Like imagine you had to use a fuse to unlock the math valve, for example, and that also lights up the hallway. But if the grunt engages you, you can do the choice, okay, I can't really do it right now, I'm gonna pull it out, and then, you know, it gets dark again, but then you can also no longer do the math thing, and then you're like, okay, I'm gonna take my fuse and go to some other Valve right now. There's currently enemy problems. You know what I mean? There's so much potential that I can see that, because I actually do enjoy playing Shopping Mall. I used to be like, whatever, because of the quest being so hilariously weak, but I actually do enjoy it for what it is, you know? But yeah, there's just so many improvement areas. Final Encounter is decent. It's not something revolutionary. I get when people say, oh my god, that's so punishing solo, but at the same time, if it's just another, okay, like I don't know, kill the Snitch, do another action button to kill, if it was only like that, then, you know, it would be kind of sad, you know? But yeah. Maybe here, I don't know. Like, I see a lot of potential with this map with some improvements. Investigate the Minotaur. I low-key simp for this MK a little bit. I like this is an MK where the fuse mechanic is actually utilized pretty well, and you actually have to do some decent choices. The start is like Spadlin, where you have to choose between upstairs or downstairs, which both of these have like advantages and disadvantages, but also you have to carry that fuse around and actually do a little bit of like backtracking. I know people hate this MK because it's like solo unfriendly, but I like the thought process that this MK has of like, oh yeah, you need to figure out the wire, like follow the wire. You learn like some wire skips. For example, you immediately know it's hardware, you know where to go, you put it in, you need to get the box through it. The game doesn't like protect you from like, oh yeah, the box isn't in there yet, you can't do it yet. And then once you pull it out, the same mechanic happens that Shopping Mall has, where, you know, an enemy spawns in to mess up your day. Again, this mechanic isn't like the greatest mechanic, like the enemy spawning in. I maybe expected a little bit more from it, but I like the thought process this MKS. Also, the semi-final encounter in the department store can be pretty good. Okay, let's talk about the shit that sucks about this MK. Most of the shit being dark. If this MK was similar to Fabricate the Scandal has like some stores are a little bit lit up. Some of them are not. Some of them here, there. Like, there's a bit of darkness here. There's a little bit of light here. If you look at it carefully. Like, if it was designed like that, or if it was designed where, you know, once you put in the fuse, not only the store lights up, but, like, more lights up in the hallway, then this would be a very, very good. But, like, most of the shit is completely dark. That's why Recycle the Package, the custom that I made similar to Destroy the Prostitute, has deep burn with it. So I create more fire and more light sources. So yeah, that part kind of sucks. Also, I do like that the quests actually move with you, similar to Open the Gates. However, one thing that, for some reason, that's kind of exclusive to higher difficulties is that they kind of come in very late in the apartment at the end. So if you're fast and you rush it, then you won't see him a whole lot of the time, because the concept of the final encounter in an MK in the department store is actually very good, but for some reason on higher difficulties it doesn't really work well. It works way better on lower difficulties, mind you. If you boot out Investigate on standard, then it works pretty well, but I don't know what they're doing on higher difficulties that they take so long to spawn, so that kind of sucks. But I expect that might be fixed at some point, you know? So yeah. Investigate I actually enjoy playing quite a lot. Maybe around here-ish. Maybe around here-ish. Maybe it's also bias from like Recycle the Package, which was actually pretty fun. Okay, Fabricate the Scandal has grown on me a bit. Like, originally I was like, oh yeah, I expected more from the Crest second MK. Yeah, the gates pop off, yeah. I expected way more from them. And don't get me wrong, the crests are not utilized well. Which, to be fair, is more of a problem with the map itself than, you know, the MK in particular. Like the whole, oh yeah, the shopping mall is so open and they can only be at once. I mean, Pleasure has the same fucking problem. But yeah, they are not utilized the best. Also, the mechanic isn't really innovative. But I still think it's kind of cute. I do love the story theme behind it. Not to an insane degree like Get Out the Vote, but I need to appreciate how funny and hilarious this MK is as well. But yeah, the mechanic itself is decent enough. Obviously, it's very similar to Beguile, just with the difference that you can pre-check, which, you know, you couldn't really do that with, what's it called, with, like, Beguile. So that's nice. You also have, like, a little bit of fixed RNG, or, you know, okay, I have to go this, I have to go that. And you have a lot more decision-making going on. I will say, the security room area is kind of a disappointing end area, I will say. And most of the times, the crest can kind of lack in this final encounter as well, similar to Investigate the Minotaur. They can lack there as well. But yeah, this is kind of it kind of grown on me to be like an average MK to just play casually, you know? It has kind of grown in the middle of the road for me. Like, does it do anything amazing? No, but it's also not really offensive, and, you know, yeah, it's alright for what it is, you know? Alright, we finally reached it. We finally reached it. Fucking hell, this took so many hours. Or it feels like it took so many hours to get here. Despoil the Auction. I will say it. I don't want to say Entertain the Corpses ruined it for me a little bit, but Entertain the Corpses revealed what I do not really like about this map. This map, on its core, is excellent, okay? I'm just talking about personal nitpicks. When I say, oh my god, there's like problem here, problem there. But like this map, okay, let's talk about the map in itself before I get ahead of myself. The map itself is top tier, awesome. Bringing in the prime asset with the objective together, with like the scanning of the jewels, getting like the money, whatever. There's like a lot that goes into like figuring out how to do that efficiently. Most importantly, getting to basement. The whole key mechanic feels very Resident Evil-like. The place feels very cool to play around. And the fact that Lilia is a constant threat, no matter what, even from the tutorial segment. Like, once the cutscene plays, it just tells you she's out there and she's gonna get you. Like, the whole concept about, like, the stealth prime asset is so well implemented. It plays so well on the map. Any other prime asset on this map would feel weird. Any other prime asset on this map would feel weird. Like, imagine if this was a Franco map or a Crest map with this objective. It wouldn't feel that good, you know? But for it works. However, and this is like where it gets kind of personal. In my opinion, Despoil feels very not, like, it feels very scripted whenever I play it. I know this, like, oh my god, you do optimal strategy of like going to basement. No wonder it's like scripted like that. But for example, when I grinded Entertain the Corpses, it felt like I was doing the same thing over and over and over and over again, because the animal keys don't have RNG to them, which, you know, is a good thing. But at the same time, for me personally, it's a bad thing, because like it is to a degree, it is a bad thing, because it just makes the trial playthrough always feel samey. Like, let me give you a random ass example, okay? Let's talk about Kill the Snitch again, right? Kill the Snitch only has one generator in the basement, right? And you would be inclined to think, okay, you're always doing the same thing, but no, that generator has like different placements, right? You can have a Snitch playthrough where you get like a generator in like the outer rim where the Berserker is, and obviously you have to then deal with the Berserker, which is scary. But that means you get out of the basement faster than K1ll can arrive. Whereas other playthroughs, you get a generator that's more inwards in the basement. And that means that, you have probably a better time because the only person that can stop you is reinforcements and K1ll. But if you turn the generator on, that might mean that K1ll has a head start, and now it's harder to actually get out because K1ll is already patrolling outside, Like, this might not seem like a big thing, but a lot of these trials, and especially some of the ones that are a little bit up here, like Spread the Disease, for example, you have different capture zones every single run, Like, a lot of these have like some varying level of RNG that you can either one, learn, or two, that make it feel a little bit different, Despoil is very fucking scripted. And I'm not saying that this is like a complete deal breaker to me personally, but it is just very apparent. And that's low-key one of the reasons why I didn't want to grind Entertain the Corpses further. It is just one of the reasons. Yeah, it was also because I didn't know if it was possible and so on and so forth. But the very scripted nature of it felt just... it literally felt like, what is the RNG on Despoil? It's not in the final encounter. Like, all the cranks are at the same spot. It's not the animal keys. The RNG is like power chords, which has a little bit of variation here and there. And then, I guess, the jewel spots, which if you look around in the, outside the rooms, then yeah, there's probably the most RNG you have, right? Like, if you look through them randomly without going into a safe ruby room, then that's probably the most RNG you will get out of this map. Otherwise, most RNG is just, oh yeah, I entered this room, which is like a dead end room. Okay, let's say which one of the 4 ones this time is the one that has the jewel, right? There's not really, oh yeah, in this run, it's, it's guaranteed to be like, okay, it's guaranteed to have 1. Maybe now it can have 2. Like, there is not really any variation necessarily. There's not really any real variation, which I feel... I know it's mostly a me thing. I think it is a good thing to have a main trial that you can learn down like that. I think that is pretty good, especially since this is a main trial where when people came out, they were like, oh my god, what the fuck? This needs to be nerfed. This is like so fucking long, Like, it is good that there is this level, that you have a main trial like that, but that just means for me personally that it's gonna sit somewhere top of A. And it's not gonna be, an S for me personally. Hell, it might actually be the sport. Because here's the thing, the main trial still works wonderfully. The final encounter is very, very cool. With, what you have to do. With, it's like designed around Lilia. Because you have to actually engage in the dungeons and actually get the objects to do the objective in the final encounter. So you can get jumped here and there, Like, it's actually designed around her too. Which is pretty good. Obviously, the permafrost mechanic built in is also a really, really nice touch and gives it like more of a difficulty passively. And I hope we see more of this, or where is it? Poison the Medicine, Chemco area, where there's like passive effects in like the main trial that are like present. Like, the permafrost is like implemented in a very excellent way. Yeah, the final encounter victim as well. But yeah, I think for me it's just that level of scriptedness that like makes it not reach S for me personally. But that's also just my fucking take, you know? Like, I can very much acknowledge that a lot of people, for a lot of people, this is S. And I 100% see why. So yeah. That being said though, this is my fucking list. It took way too fucking long to make this, but yeah. Make sure if you see this on YouTube to shit talk me in the comments how bad this list is, okay? But yeah, we fucking did it, shit.